Imagine everything like that could have went wrong in your day, and then on top of that, you get hiccups. I'm gonna be telling you all the books that I've read in February and what I thought about them. So this month I've read 12 books, I believe. I mean, 12 books is more than one, and that's all we could really ask for. But my point is, a lot of them were really thick books with loads of pages, and the fact that I managed to get through them and still have read 12 books, I think that I deserve a pat on the back for that. Without delaying this any further, the first book that I read, well, I'm going to talk about the first 3 books that I read because they are part of the series. I finished ACOTAR, the whole series. Yes, I got through it. I made a video about it, but really quickly. So I read A Court of Wings and Ruin, A Court of Frost and Starlight, and A Court of Silver Flames in February, and obviously the others were in January. A Court of Wings and Ruin, so that was the final book in Feyre's story. We got past the romance, so we got past the Beauty and the Beast retellings. We're going now to war. Why did it feel in this book like we're just going back and forward, and not really doing anything? And then if any of them were in some sort of trouble, something just comes up and you're like, oh wait, I know this exact thing that could really help us right in this second, but it's really hard to get, and then they just get it. It's either that or they're waiting for something. The only thing I liked in the ending was how like everything came together, you know? If you read the book, you know what I mean. But I literally could not just even read the book. I had to audiobook it because I could not get past it. At some points it could have been condensed, and you could have made the book so much more interesting by adding stuff instead of, you know, waiting, and the book still could have been condensed. So all in all, I gave it, I can't remember what I gave it. I'm gonna give it 2 stars because it's just not the best, okay? Sometimes you just have to admit things, and I'm admitting this here and now, it's not the best. The novella, A Court of Frost and Starlight, so that was kind of with everyone. It wasn't like the most interesting, but you don't even expect it to be. It was kind of wholesome to see, but then again, like, of course I'm not gonna give it like a 5 stars, not even a 4. This was like a solid 3 because I don't even remember half of it, like most of it actually. I just remember one scene or 2. Then we've got A Court of Silver Flames, which is Nesta's story. I never hated Nesta. I like Nesta. I liked her storyline. I liked her growth because she was kind of like quote unquote bad character or like unlikable. You could really see her grow so much, and I loved how that growth was kind of made literally. I loved the girl group type of thing coming together, love female warriors, but the romance and the conclusion really let this down. I mean, the romance, like, it wasn't really existent. I did not feel the tension. For me, it was just Nesta's story and the girls. That's all it was for me. And even Cassian as a character, I think he lost his charm. He just appeared like every other male character. Like, there was nothing special about him. In the first few books, he was kind of funny, he was charming, but in A Court of Silver Flames, in his own book, he gave me absolutely nothing. But because of the things that I did like I said before, there's some things in books that instantly make it a higher rated book for me because I love these things so much and they just hit home. So that's why I gave it 4 stars. But I think that it deserves 4 stars, probably not, but it's a 4-star book for me. Then I finished, so it was kind of like a month of finishing series, and God knows I still have so many to finish, as well as books to finish, because I'm literally in the middle of reading books, and they're all like 50%, which is like, well, read the other 50% then, but that's just me. Yeah, that's literally my excuse. That's just me. I just don't finish books, but I do finish series. Isn't that so backwards? So I finished The Edge of Darkness by Lee Rivers. It's a dark romance. I think you really get to see the dark romance in book 2 and 3, and I was in pain reading this. Like, I didn't even enjoy myself reading it. I was just seeing what is going on to these characters, just waiting for them to come out of this and see the light. But to get to that, it's a long time. So I was just torturing myself, basically. That's what it was. So the second and third book is called Voracious and Restitution. Out of all of them, I probably like the first one the best, only because, like I said, I was just being tortured throughout the whole series for the other 2 books. The male main character breaks up with the female main character because he thinks that she cheated on him, but they've got their own like struggles going on, so loads of trigger warnings. and it's about them connecting again. So yeah, I was just in pain. So they probably deserve like our 4 stars each. For some books I give like a spread, and this was Insatiable spread. We've got the first, second, third, and like the little pictures that are, this is the vibes that it gives, okay? Hear this, and I don't think you should see the third one. Flashbacks by themselves was the cutest romance. Yes, so I forgot to mention, there is a past flashback chapters. It shows us how both the characters got together and they were each other's firsts. It was just so cute. In the second book, it felt like there was a huge weight on my chest that would not go away until these characters can live together safely and peacefully. Whatever I write in my reading journal is exactly how I feel. I just find it so much easier to write rather than explain with my words. Maybe that's just being bilingual. So the third one, definitely not enjoying reading this, but that's the point. Oh, this is a quote that I wrote, but I'm not gonna read it out, even though it hits like really hard. It's a very impactful quote, but it is kind of like a spoiler, and it's also might be triggering, so I'm not gonna read it out. And the third thing I wrote was maybe a bit longer than was necessary, but I'm just happy that I got a happy ending after all the pain. Definitely need some cute fluffy romance after this. Yeah, and you're gonna see I went into some very cute fluffy romances because it was Valentine's Day and I read 5 books that were all fluffy romances, or like I guess as fluffy as I could read. This series kind of paved the way for the rest of the books that I read. So first we've got Deep End, very controversial book. I understand all the criticism 100%, but there are some redeeming qualities in this book. I know, it is possible. The love interest, even though he has his flaws, I felt like he was such a good guy. He defended her when he needed to, always supported her. I think he was right for her. That's what it was. These people really do feel like a couple, and you just feel like you're third wheeling. At least that's me, because some of the things, like obviously in this book they're swimmers, so they talk about like swimming stuff. If you don't know much about swimming, then they're gonna be like, okay, these two characters, let them have the conversation. I'm just gonna stand here and observe. The characters are very distinct. I feel like Ali Hazelwood does delve into that like rom-com film where characters like really awkward sometimes, like but like a little bit cringy too. So that's not gonna be for everyone. One of the biggest problems with this book, the author literally says in this book, I am going to explore kinks. She explores 2. Whether that's enough or not is up to your point of view. But the 2 were praise and power dynamics, which I think are common. They are explained very well in my opinion, but if she would have picked something more maybe nuanced or maybe more kinks, then I feel like it would have done a better job. I mean, this book has spicy scenes, okay? It has more than one. You could have used those other scenes to delve into more kinks or even like mention them in passing, but she didn't. Maybe it was because it's about a character who's struggling to admit that she does have these kinks because of society, so she wants to make them known about, destigmatized. But in my opinion, these 2 are very, very common in my opinion. And the only person in this book who's kind of saying why would you want that is the main character's friend, Pen. People say that the side character is literally like the main character. In my opinion, I didn't feel that way. In some ways, this book is also about female friendship, which makes sense for her friend to appear a lot in the book. And you know, if you look past how close the relationship in between the love interest and her friend and her and the love interest, these mistakes could have been so easily fixed. That's the thing. Just make the timing between their relationships further apart, make the main character communicate with her friend more, explore more kinks. It could have been fixed. Overall, I gave it a 3. I don't hate it, and the balance between just sleeping together and actually falling in love, I think was well balanced. In a lot of cases, when the characters are in this kind of arrangement similar to Deep End, it sometimes feels like they say I love you or they admit their feelings so soon, and especially how I read books in like 1 or 2 sittings, I get a very good idea of the timing and the pacing and how everything goes. This book felt like it was done in a good pace. Anyways, enough of this book. See, I remember her friend's name, but I can't remember her name. Oh, Scarlett! Could have told me it was Daisy and I could have believed you. The next book I read was Strawberry Fields Forever. I cannot explain to you the visceral hate that I have for this book. The main male character is such an asshole. There are no other words for the kind of man that he is, because he's the kind of man that thinks that women can't work hard and they only get good positions because they open their legs. And he has said that after switching from being nice. You can't call it enemies to lovers if you just make the characters switch their personalities. You know, bully romances, for example, I don't mind, but I think when you say statements like this in any other book, you're the character that everybody hates. In this book, you're just love interest, and I still hate you. You can even call her a bitch, but don't say that she doesn't work hard and that she opened her legs to get the position. Priorities, standards, where are they? I don't even want to talk about this book. It was so bad. I can't even remember anything. I just want to forget it. Safe to say for me, to 1 star. Okay, then we've got Up the Ladder. So this is a sexual book. It was just gonna be like that from the premise. She got dumped because her boyfriend thought she was bad in bed, and she gets this kind of friends with benefits arrangement with this guy, and she's going through like a bucket list of sexual things to prove to herself and everybody else, I guess, that she is good in bed. But for some reason I thought that maybe it was gonna be more than that. But it wasn't, which is fine. I really loved the male character. He was such a good guy. He was so respectful. Honestly, reading about guys like this in books just gives me hope. It's like having a happy ending to a romance and seeing that they get together and getting hope. My hope is that men can be good, like in books. So I gave this book 3 stars. It is a trend, unfortunately. The thing is, there is no actual plot, which I'm not the biggest fan of. So I think I can't give this any higher than a 3 star, but it wasn't a terrible book. I think if you like books like this, you will love this. You will love this, but it just wasn't for me because I needed something else. And it also dragged on a little bit because there was so many spicy scenes. By the end, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm getting so bored. Then I read All Roads Lead Here. This book is Grumpy X Sunshine done well. The guy is grumpy, but he's not like an asshole. He's just grumpy. He's not mean or anything. He's just grumpy. The main character is Sunshine, but she's not childish or immature. She just wants to see the good in everything. And for the first time, instead of finding the main Sunshine character cringy or whatever, I found her to be just likable. I liked her a lot. And even so, it's a single dad romance, but the child is a teenager and he had so much to the book, and how he slowly opened up and all of that. I loved it. This book was long, but it didn't feel long. The slow burn as well. I mean, Mariana Zapata, which is the author for this book, is known for being the slow burn queen. It's exactly what it was. It was less sexual tension and more slow burn, as in them falling for each other. I gave it a 4 stars. Very well deserved. After I filmed that video, I realized that there was one book that I forgot to talk about. So First Time Caller was a new release. A lot of people have been talking about it, so I wanted to see what it's about, and the cover was so beautiful. That is probably one of my favorite covers that I've ever seen. Besides the fact that it's pink, I like the art style, just everything about it. I think we should do more covers like that. Authors, publishers, take inspiration from this, please. So First Time Caller. Oh, by the way, if I look a bit rough, I just woke up, so I've got an energy drink. So overall, I gave a First Time Caller 3 stars. I think it did what it needed to do. For Valentine's Day especially, it was the perfect read. There was just this Valentine's kind of atmosphere. You get that feeling of love and everything on Valentine's, and I think I should have read it on Valentine's. I read it a couple days later because I was doing a video, so I had to fit 5 books and that wasn't going to be in a day. Our main male character, he has fallen out of love. He doesn't believe in it. He thinks that it just is a way to hurt himself, basically. And I think the reasons for that are valid. When he delves more into why he's this way, it makes sense. It makes me feel bad for him. It makes me understand him. Even throughout the books, when he is a bit childish, a bit infuriating, being so emotionally unavailable, I do understand where it's coming from. But him as a character, I didn't always like. It's definitely a he falls first. He's obsessed with her. He's jealous whenever she goes on any dates or anything. The whole premise is that she is a hopeless romantic, so the complete opposite. But she doesn't really want to date because it's a bit like a lot of effort for most of the time a low reward. He's a radio show host. He does this show where he gets calls. They tell him the love problems that they have, and he doesn't even fix them. That's the problem. He doesn't even give advice, and that's what really pissed me off the entire book. He does like listen to them, but that's about it. Maybe he says like, you know, a comment here and there, but he doesn't really give advice. And then I'm like, well, what's the point? And they could have even, you know, given the audience that are reading this book some advice, just in passing. So that was one of the things I didn't like. I think it just set up really, really good. But I got let down because it didn't live up to my expectations. With Lucy though, she is a single mom, and her relationship with her daughter, I really loved that part. I want to read about more single moms. I think it's just so precious, and I wanted to see more of that, actually, selfishly. And yes, so it was a good read, but was it something that I loved? No, and it had the potential to be something I loved, which is so disappointing. But I don't regret reading this. Then we've got Normal People, another controversial book. I think more people love it than hate it. At the age that I am now, reading that book, I didn't get as many things as I would have if I read it when I was older. So when I'm older, I'm definitely gonna reread it. And I think no matter what age you are, you'll still take something from this book or relate in some way, which is the beauty of this book. It's in the title, okay? Normal People. It's about normal people, it's for normal people, and it's about normal lives, and it's a normal book. For me, I read it like a memoir, but instead of it being like a celebrity or someone that, you know, it's just a normal person, or in this case, two people. And if I was writing a memoir, I would not use quotation marks, okay? I'm just gonna say, she said this, he said this, then I said this. I'm not gonna put in quotation marks. And I think that was clearly intentional. And you can really see who's speaking, so you don't get confused. But for me, the reason why I wouldn't put it in is because it would make it too fictional. If I'm telling about my life, I'm not gonna make it seem like a fiction book that you can read for entertainment. And that's exactly what I felt like this book tried to do. If you're intimidated by this book, don't be. It's quick to read. It's easy to read, and you've got a lot to take from this, and you're not going to take everything in one go. There's just, because it's called Normal People, I felt like compared to other books, you could really relate to a lot of moments, not just like a big plot point, but just spoken in passing. So I am this book's defender. However, did I absolutely enjoy reading this book? No. I wasn't having the greatest time because of the content, which again is fine. I mean, that's the whole point. Not every book is going to be enjoyable. In my review, I said, I don't think this book is written to be loved, but related to. A lot of people can relate to some part of this book, no matter who they are and whether they enjoy reading it. This book obviously deals with a lot of issues, and they aren't solved. I think the intention behind this is to make people feel less alone when they read about these types of situations that they might have experienced themselves, but also not to highlight one specific way to solve them. With complicated issues like domestic abuse, depression, and anxiety, so many things go into recovering and getting out of that, and it would oversimplify this if there was one solution behind it, especially when many people, they might never fully recover. I mean, this ending doesn't necessarily have a satisfying conclusion, and that's literally behind Normal People. Normal People, they don't have like a very distinct beginning and end of their story, in a way, like a slice of their life. It won't always be a happy ending, and that's what I said. The ending isn't satisfying, but for a story that's about normal people, it makes sense. Where other books are separate from our typical lives, this almost feels like a representation of it. Instead of escapism, you're looking into the mirror. So everything in this book goes back to the title. I did give it 4 stars, so as much as like it's definitely not one of the books that I will forever remember or really think back on, I think objectively it is a good book. Lastly, we read City of Gods and Monsters. This is the House of Devil series, and I had so much hope that I was gonna rate this like at least a 4 or 5 stars. I mean, it's a 3, but it's not a 4 or 5, which I thought it would be, because it does have a very interesting premise or setup. A lot of people compare this to Crescent City and they say that it's very similar. I personally have not read that yet. I did get the vibes of Shadowhunters. I'm one of those people that read Shadowhunters and watched the show, but not all of it. I think my review says it best. I'm sorry, I'm just reading from reviews, but like writing it down is so much better than just thinking out of my brain, my one brain cell, what I'm going to say about this. So you get this. You know when a slow burn stops being a slow burn? When the main female character can't stand 5 minutes without being away from him. Slow burn where? For me, it's not only a slow burn if you only get to like kiss 70% or 80% through the book. There's more to this. There's more to the story. There should be more to the story. I liked when she fought for herself once, but that was the only time. It becomes so tiring to read about a character who's always needing help from the man, always questioning about the girls that he had conversations with and getting angry at him without hearing him out. That really pissed me off. I swear, at next book, this character better up her game. She needs to do like a 360, not even a 180, a 360. Okay, maybe a 180. I got confused with my, so then she would come back to being the same person. So yeah, 180, turn around, go to your naughty corner, think about what you've done. I can't. Characters in some books just piss me off and it ruins the whole book. If the character is even like a little bit annoying, I'm like, oh, it's fine. If they piss me off, it's over. Don't get me started on how she figures things out from nowhere. At some point in the book, I was like, how did you draw that conclusion? Almost everything is for the convenience of the plot and to push the story along, which is one of my least favorite things in a book. I want characters to struggle and slowly figure things out by themselves instead of relying on everything and everyone else while they get on with their day-to-day life up until the big action scene at the end. If you ever wanted to be a writer and you ever searched up on Google how to write a book or advice on how to write a book, number one thing, okay, besides show and tell, the other thing that they will tell you is make the characters active. Plot is not happening to them, they're driving the plot along. That is what I want. And this is writing 101. I have hope that her character development skyrockets in book 2, but as far as main characters go, I don't like her. Yeah, it better skyrocket because that book is 900 pages long. If you think I'm reading 900 pages where the main character is annoying, then I will actually lose my mind. You gotta give me something. You have to. And one thing I don't understand is how a bounty hunter turns bodyguard over lunch. Might have been dinner, but whatever. Yeah. It bothered me because it seemed like there wasn't really an explanation for it. He just found her attractive, I guess. So you can kind of piece the pieces of what this book is about. It's about this guy who's a bounty hunter, gets hired to kill her. Someone's trying to kidnap her, use her for something. Mysteries after mysteries, you know, and he, instead of killing her, so suddenly turns into your bodyguard. He literally has no business. He's just curious. He's like, all right, I'm gonna see where this goes, see what's good. All in all, this book was a good time. The plot has potential, but it ended in a satisfying way. I did guess the twist. So the first time that we had like a question of, oh, why is this bounty happening? I had an inkling. I was like, hold on, what if this is why? And I guessed it right. I was very satisfied with that, very satisfied. But anyway, the plot ended up satisfyingly ending, kind of, with like 1 or 2 more questions, probably 2 more main questions. And then I was like, so why is this supposed to be a 6-book series and they're all over 600 pages long? Don't give me fluff. That better be plot, characters driving the plot specifically. I don't understand where this story could go, but I want to see, and that's why I will be reading the second book. But it is a free start because I enjoyed my time. It was one of those books that you don't really like pay attention to. If you're the type of person who enjoys a fantasy but you just want like a palate cleanser fantasy, this is that basically. I mean, not really a palate cleanser because it's a 6-book series, but at least the first book. In 2.5 months I read 30 books, which is on my way to my goal to read 125 books. The reason why I'm reading so much is because I know myself. I will stop reading for like a month or 2 months or like the whole summer, and then I will come back. I still reached or can reach my goal of 125 books. So I'm not pacing myself, I guess. I'm just reading. I'll see you next month. We'll see what I read. More importantly, what I didn't read. Oh, my back.